Hello everyone, I'm Naresh from Abhyaas. This presentation is about analyzing the changes that have been recently announced for CAT 2014 through notification by IIMs and the CAT conducting authority. As this has been a change after so many years, many students have expressed doubts and queries, concerns about the pattern and changes. So what we at Abhyaas did is basically to bring together a set of questions that students have in mind. Our product anchor has put together a set of questions that I'm trying to answer. So before we actually go ahead and look at the changes in the pattern and understand how that could impact any student and accordingly what should the student be doing, etc., let me briefly take you through the profile of the speaker, that is myself. So as you see there, I am myself a CAT cracker. I have been a 100% teller in CAT and I have been to IIM Bangalore for my MBA, and before that I am a gold medalist from NIT Warangal. I have been to Stanford Business School also, and I work with McKinsey, Tata Motors, Maruti Udyog, etc. And currently I'm doing two things. One is I am the founder of Abhyaas Edu Corp, which is an educational organization which does trainings in many different fields, and one of them is the test prep, that is CAT, GRE, etc. And apart from that, I'm also a visiting professor in many business schools in and around Hyderabad. I'm also part of the board of Association of Indian Management Schools AP chapter. So with this, let me kind of actually go through the session for today. As I told you already, what we are trying to achieve through this small video is put to rest some of the unnecessary myths that surround the change of pattern and confusions in set of students, etc. We tried doing it mainly for our students, CAT students at Abhyaas, and we thought we are trying to make this video public because it could also help other students. And some of the media is also trying to carry this as an interview. You might see this in some of the dailies over time. Let me actually go through the thing, right? Before we actually go into a specific set of questions that my product manager has asked me, has put together for answers from my side, let me kind of take you to this slide. This slide quickly summarizes the main subtle changes that are there between the old pattern in 2013 and the new pattern in 2014. The sections did not change, but the number of questions did. We have a whopping 100 questions in two sections as opposed to 60 questions earlier, which is very, very clearly a huge jump. That is 66.67% jump in the number of questions. 2/3 more questions that we have. Similarly, the time earlier was 140 minutes, 70 minutes in each section. Now we have 170 minutes in all. That is also a good jump, half an hour jump, which is almost 30% jump. And the most important change I would say for this year, in fact I would want every student to know, is unlike CAT in the last 4-5 years, which after it has gone online, this time CAT is only being done for 2 days and 4 sessions. That is, only 4 different CAT exams will be conducted. Whereas in the last 5 years, we have had CAT exam being conducted over 3 weeks in 40 different sessions, etc. So this is going to be the most important change according to me. I'll tell you why a little later in another question. The few other things that are changed in the current CAT pattern. The first, another major change for students is that till last year, you did not have flexibility to kind of move from one section to the other. That is, the 140 minutes was siloed down into 70 and 70 with airtight timing. That is, if you are in section 1, QA and DI, you can't move to VA and LR until 70 minutes elapsed. Whereas this year, CAT has brought back the intersectional flexibility that it usually gave in a paper pencil format before 2008. It's a very, very interesting and important change because it allows students to kind of move from one section to the other during any part of the exam. That's an interesting change. And the other smaller changes are, CAT earlier had a tutorial, a 10 to 15 minute demo during the exam for you to get used to the test player, online test conditions, etc. This time there is no tutorial. The moment you get onto the testing system, you are going to start with the exam. That's an important change for you to note. Similarly, earlier CAT usually gave you a chance to select your date over those 20 sessions, over those 40 sessions, over 20 days, you had a chance to select the date. This time, you cannot select a date. Please note that you can't select a date this time. very important to know that the date of your exam is not going to be decided by you as the aspirant, as a candidate, as a student, but it will be decided by the conducting authority, the CAT conducting authority, which is TCS this time. Alright, so how would they do that? The only choice a student has this time is city selection. As compared to last year, there are more cities this time. Last year, number of cities are 99 this time, which is more than double of the number of cities that are available earlier. In fact, the total number of testing centers have increased by more than 200%, right? So, you have a choice of selecting the city that you want to write the exam, and accordingly, you are asked to give 3 choices. There will be 3 choices for your city, and the CAT authority would ensure that you get one of these 3 choices on the given 4 sessions, or 2 dates and 4 sessions. And one final change that we have, another minute change but probably important for many of you, is that CAT has now become a purely online application. That is, you need not go to a bank and pay money and get a voucher and all that. You can do the payment also online, which was not present in the prior years. In prior years, while you're applying online, data was entered online, you need to get a voucher from a bank, which was a hassle. So these are the overall main changes that we have. That I think now what I'll actually do is, these are facts that we have in front of us. But how do we interpret these facts? What does these facts mean to an aspirant? To a serious aspirant, what should they be doing in the next 3 months, right? In fact, CAT was usually conducted from mid-October to mid-November. This time the interesting thing is because there's only 2 dates, they're conducted only in mid-November. So that's a huge advantage of 1 month to students. So how could they be using it? By busting the myths that we have and interpreting the facts we have in front of us. So without much delay, let me actually go to the first question that my product manager has set for me. I think we have a set of questions. I tried collating some answers and I'll explain them as we go. The first thing that they asked me, this is a very simple question probably. I'll read out the question. What is your overall view of the changes planned for CAT 2014? Right? As a CAT aspirant, this question might not be relevant to you, but as an IIM alumnus, as someone who has a stake in the CAT and IIM credibility, I feel obliged to answer this. I believe the changes that are being made are overall very, very positive. And why do I believe they are very, very positive? I believe they are very positive because, first, it can improve the credibility of IIMs and CAT if done well. These changes can in turn help IIMs and CAT to improve their credibility because the ambiguity about scoring process would reduce and students would start having more clarity, which in turn will increase the confidence of students in CAT. You would be surprised to know that the number of CAT takers before 2008 to as latest as last year has dwindled down to 1.8 lakhs. The number of aspirants could be more, but number of people who have actually written on the exam day is only 1.8 lakh in CAT 2013. Around CAT 2006, 2007, I think even around 2007, it was as close to 3 lakhs. 2.73 lakhs. So you can understand the amount of drop that CAT had in the last 5-6 years in terms of its credibility and number of people taking it. There are a lot of reasons. CAT has gone online and some people who are not comfortable with online are not writing that anymore. Usually people from rural background, as they say, but I believe the reason for that would be more in terms of overall confidence of students in CAT has gone down. And second thing is that people have started realizing that MBA has increased, the fees of MBA has increased so much that they don't find it value for money anymore. But I think this can help, the current changes can help the number of CAT takers to improve from 1.8 lakhs to more in the next few years to come if they are done well, because overall credibility can improve. And one final reason why I believe this actually is a very positive move is because CAT has always been about change. CAT has always been about surprise. The flavor of CAT has been to kind of create surprise, to create change and kind of get the brains shaken, rattled and see how students do. So that has come back, right? After 5 years of stagnancy in the pattern, we now have a sudden change in the pattern, which I believe is good. So in all, this is what I believe is positive about CAT as an exam in the year 2014. Right? So let me now go to the second question that they have put to me, students have asked and my product manager has put to me. The second question that is there, probably very important for students, right? The question that some of the aspirants asked is, what could be the impact of the increase in number of questions? Right? Like we discussed, the higher number of questions, as I said, questions have increased by almost 2/3. That is, we have 66.67% extra questions. What could they mean? The first big change I would want to suggest, unlike many students who try to believe the CAT has become more of a speed game than accuracy or this thing, I think there are 3 specific points I would want people to note down and kind of look at them seriously. The first thing is that this is not just about quantity anymore. Please understand, the change of 60 to 100 is not just about quantity, as you all can palpably, tangibly see, but the bigger impetus from the CAT authorities would be also on the quality of testing. Because in 60 questions, CAT has been predominantly asking few areas of testing, but now with more questions at their disposal, the question setters can actually try many more testing areas in terms of diversity. As an example, as a small example, I would want to give this. Under your current verbal ability area, apart from the reading comprehension, you see questions like para-completions and para-jumbles within critical reasoning. Now what could happen is, with more number of questions at their disposal, CAT authorities can ask, apart from para-completion, para-jumbles, more areas of critical reasoning. So that's going to be one very, very important change in your CAT exam this year. So don't look at these questions as 60 to 100 as a pure quantity jump. It's going to be quality. Diversity of testing areas will change. Now what does this mean? This means that students cannot anymore focus on few skills, right? Students cannot just focus on few skills, but they have to go back to the drawing board. They have to start picking up skills, more testing areas, more skills that were usually tested in CAT. So you have to go back to CAT papers, old papers, probably older papers in fact, and probably look at more skills in more areas across the different sections, across quant, across verbal, across data interpretation, logical reasoning. So these are the things that one ought to do, right? And one more thing is, this is positive change in terms of those students who might find earlier papers were very narrow. What I meant is, when you had only 30 questions, I have seen students complain to me during the CAT testing period, October to November every year, that their exam had too many questions from geometry, or their exam had too many questions from algebra, or their exam had too many questions from one area. Now one interesting thing that can happen now is, with more questions at the question setter's disposal, I think you can expect the questions within a section to be more diverse and more very balanced, which in turn means students can always find questions to their liking. Even if they are not good at some areas, they can always find questions in the area that they want to do. That is going to be a positive from this higher number of questions, right? So these are the things that you can keep in mind with respect to the increased number of questions. Let me go ahead and take next question. Let us see what Avinash has for us in the next question. Right? As next question, Avinash has asked me, how should students plan their speed strategy in the wake of reduced time per question, right? I think, okay, Avinash seems to have calculated time per question, unlike the current pattern, and we have this. What should be the speed strategy? Let me answer this. I actually have a contra view. I believe speed factor is overplayed in the minds of students, and some faculty, some institutions are overplaying the speed factor. Please understand, CAT has not been a speed exam even before it went online. Much before online. Probably in 1990s till 2000, 2001, it was a speed exam. Like other exams like CMAT, MAT, many questions, less time. But from 2003, 2004, CAT has always been focusing on few questions, high quality questions. So I don't believe speed factor is an important thing. It is being overplayed. Let me kind of put together some facts. With the current set of things, your current time per question is still 1.7 minutes. The older pattern had something like 2.33 minutes. So half a minute less per question. I agree it is tangible, but I don't believe it is an amount that should kind of push students from being accurate oriented to speed oriented. The accuracy still cannot be diluted. Accuracy is going to be far more important. And any exam that has 1.7 minutes, approximately 2 minutes per question is not a joke. MCQ kind of an exam, 2 minutes per question should automatically tell you the quality of questions is going to be high quality. It can't be speed anymore. That's a very important thing for you to know. You can compare this exam with SNAP, IFT, other exams. They also have lot more questions per the given time, but this is very different. Please understand this. Also, one other thing that we need to understand is that the average time would have come down, but please also understand, with more questions at your disposal, you are not forced to spend time on all the questions or the questions that are given. Now you can choose to spend time on those questions. You have more variety of questions, more choice of questions, so you can choose a better level of questions. You can choose more easier questions, which in turn means your requirement of time on a given question decreases. That's a very, very important thing for people to remember. So in all, I believe the speed factor is overplayed. This factor is still accuracy and not speed. A very important thing for students to keep in mind for an online exam in the wake of normalization, etc. Very important for you to keep in mind. So this should answer your question, Avinash, and that of many students. Let me now go ahead to the next question that Avinash has put to me. Right? The next question that students seems to have asked is, why have IIMs introduced the intersectional flexibility? That is moving from one section to the other section after many years. Absolutely, that's a wonderful question. I would love to answer this question. Let's look at what is a good manager. I believe it's a welcome move because a good manager is someone who takes optimal decisions. What to do, what not to do, what to sacrifice, what to take risk on, etc. And this flexibility is very important because this flexibility gives a student a chance to show his or her ability to kind of move on, take decisions. So decision making is tested. In fact, I believe this is the ethos of any management entrance exam. So they should have this flexibility. In a way, CAT is reverting back to its original move of having flexibility, which is, I believe, a very good thing. Now, what does it also do? What does it mean for students then? It's nice from the management testing area, but what does it mean for students? A very interesting thing that will happen now is people with very good skill, extraordinary skill in one area will be benefited. For example, if someone is extremely good at math, in the earlier time what used to happen is if he has saved some time in maths, that cannot be moved to verbal. But now with that, they can automatically improve the chances in other area. They can spend extra time in say verbal. Or someone who is extremely good at verbal now can save some time in verbal and put it on quants. So in that way, people with very high skill in one of the areas will be rewarded. That's the beauty of this flexibility move. But another important thing that I want to kind of tell people is that any exam, any test should actually encourage students to focus on strengths than just focus on weakness and balance them out. I think this is going to do exactly that. Now students, because of the point that I've just said, people who are very good at one area, usually what I've seen is in the last few months, they don't really focus on the area that they are good at, but they move on to try to do something on the area that they're weak at, and which in turn decreases their overall appetite, energy, IQ, etc. But now what happens is, apart from focusing on the area that you're not extremely good at, this move welcomes you to kind of practice your strength area also more, because in turn you can get mileage in terms of time saving in the final exam. So this is a very good move according to me, and students can plan to spend equally good time on strengths also, not just weaknesses but strengths also. That's a very important thing for people to keep in mind. So now let me just ask Avinash what his next question is. I think the fifth question that I have for today is, how could the decreased number of exam days sessions impact students? That's, as I said, is the highlight of this year, is the most important according to me. The most important change for this year is this. I think the first big thing that I wanted to say is IIMs have saved lots of money. I hope some of you know that by awarding this contract to TCS. At least if we go by media bytes, they have saved 1/6 of the money, right? 180 crores per 5 years was the contract that they gave with an earlier testing partner versus 30 crores now. Right? All these are numbers in media, so we don't know official estimates. But still, I think, how would that help? TCS, with its ability to conduct large exams in a small span of time, is enabling IIMs to conduct CAT within 2 days, unlike the earlier years. Now, how does it help students or not help students? What happens? Let us look at this. Let me kind of tell you. I think this is the biggest game changer for the credibility of the exam, as I told you. Now the students can be a lot more sure about the results. as the result comparison is just among 4 sessions as compared to 40 sessions, and it would be more rational. So people's fretting, students fretting, aspirants fretting over final results, I hope would decrease this year, because the last 4 years, 5 years has been a huge heartburn and our students being very unhappy after the results. So I'm sure that could come down. That's a big positive. The second thing would be the result process also could be far more quicker, because the amount of back-end data analysis that needs to be done would be far lesser. I think so that also would be a very positive for students. And finally, which I believe according to me in the long run is going to help IIMs is they can focus on good quality questions, which has been the focus of CAT all the time. CAT has been popular not because they are the most difficult exam. In fact, XAT has tougher questions than CAT. But CAT is known for high quality questions in terms of questions that lull students into traps, questions that make students make mistakes, questions that test on students' frailties, weaknesses. So in that context, IIMs can now need not fret over doing 40 exams, so many exam sets, so many data, so many questions, but they can decrease. In fact, they need to develop only 1/6 of the number of questions as compared to the earlier years, and hence I'm hoping IIM professors would do great job, better job in terms of the quality of questions. So I'm expecting to see that kind of improvement this year in the CAT exam. So this should be the positive change for students. In all, students can be more happier, they can relax when they go to the exams, hoping that the exam normalization would be better. By the way, what would be the scoring and equalizing process is not yet out for the CAT 2014. If you look at the catim.ac.in, the official website, they have told that they're going to release the process of equalization, normalization before the actual exam. So keep glued to the CAT website and check for updates, or you can also glue to Abhyaas channels on Facebook and mailing, etc. Right. Let me now go to the next question, Avinash, from you. Right. As I see, Avinash has the 6th question for me. I think, why is the tutorial for the exam discontinued, and how could this affect for the students? What would be the effect for the students? Right. Avinash, I'm assuming by tutorial you mean the 10-15 minute demo player that is there during the actual exam, that is discontinued now, right? Now, the big reason this would have been discontinued is that by adding that they're going to make it a jumbo exam. Already the exam is close to 3 hours. Earlier the exam was less than 2.5 hours. So the demo could add to the length of the exam, which in turn might make it very difficult for organizers to conduct, because they do not have too much time to cope up from one session to other session. It will put a lot of stress on the servers and IT systems, etc. And the other thing for students is that it could become very strenuous. I've seen students actually complain about an online exam even in the last few years, because apart from the 2 hour 20 minutes, they are forced to sit for almost another hour. So it was become a 2.5 hour became 3.5 hour. So the idea probably would be not to increase the overall time so that students do not get strained. That's a positive move, I believe. But at the same time, the big risk here is a student who does not prepare at all and who goes to the CAT exam directly. You might say that this is not something that students cannot get used to. Most CAT aspirants, CAT candidates are working students who are comfortable with computers, websites, online, but still those who don't prepare well, once they see a new screen, new kind of testing player, I think they might find it a little difficult, and hence a preparedness, any student who is cautious and prepares in advance would be rewarded. So try and ensure that you practice the test player that is definitely given on the imcat.ac.in website much before, and practice a lot. That is a key to being happy on the final day. That's very, very important. Alright, let me go to the next question now, Avinash, from you. The next question is, what are the changes in the application process and how should students tackle the same? Right, I think this is a question I would say students would actually find that this is more process oriented. Yes, it is process oriented, not so much exam strategy, but few things for people to keep in mind. Let me kind of bring that to your notice. The first thing is, know that it's only online process, no more offline voucher process. So this is very good because this decreases hassles, issues for students. They need not stand in queues and lines for students. So they need not go to banks, etc. But the other thing is they also need online payment tools like credit cards, debit cards, etc. So they should ensure that they have it. This also means students need not decide on a day, they need not spare time. So that's a very positive thing. But the other change that is a little tricky for students is we can only select city and not date. That should be kept in mind. You cannot select a date this time. That means you cannot make your own travel plans till you get the actual hall ticket or actual exam date. It's very important for you to get the actual date, whichever date session is allocated to you, and plan for your travel. I've seen a lot of students make plans earlier. You ask for your leaves in the companies earlier. All that cannot be done this year. You need to wait for your date. And ensure that you give right cities. I think the 3 cities that you choose, you're going to give 3 choices, and any of the 3 choices could be given to you based on availability. So ensure you give 3 cities which are going to be comfortable for you to travel. But the good news is you have 99 cities, which is, I said, more than double of last year. So you would have more cities within within lesser distance. So that's a positive, right? So that's one good news for you. But as I said, there's no choice of the date. So be very careful about applying and then waiting for the date. Right. Let me go to the next question. I think, yeah, this is a very interesting question. I'm sure many students actually will be looking at this video for something like this. What could be the ideal attempts or score for CAT 2014? Now, this is a tricky question, and I would be very honest to say that guessing anything like this would be something like prognosis, and I'm trying to claim to be an oracle, which I don't want to do. But having said that, having been a veteran in the CAT field, having trained students for many number of years, my own experience, I try to put my 2 cents for your use. See, in the current format that we have been running for the last few years, we see that All India topper, someone around 100 percentile, 99.9 plus kind of people, the top 10, top 8 people, I have seen them I have seen my own student who was 100 percentile from his own attempts also. I can sense that their net, when out of 60 questions, they were getting a net correct of around 50. That means they are attempting around 50, 48, 49, 50, 51, and they're getting almost right. So that means what? They are attempting 85% of the questions and near to 100% accuracy. Very important for you to keep in mind, right? 85% attempts, 100% accuracy for 99.9 percentile in the current format. And similarly, someone who is targeting a 90 plus percentile, being in the top 10%, I think that we have seen that they are actually attempting around 40 questions out of 60 with a 90% accuracy. That means getting a net score of around 35, 36. Which is nothing but doing 2/3 questions with around 85, 90% accuracy. Now, what I want to kind of prognose about the current format, about the new format that's coming from the current format is, I think the toppers, 99.9 plus guys, 100% this time, the attempts would go from just being 50 out of 60 to close to 90 out of 100, because I believe the questions are going to be a little easier as compared to them, and they have more time. So we might see 90. I know this is a little higher target, so if this doesn't happen, there could be other thing could be the questions are actually not as easy as we believe, but as tougher as the 60 questions are, then they're not able to solve more questions. You might actually see that come down drastically. But I believe they can attempt close to 90 questions. That's very important out of 100. But more important for the many of you who are actually aspiring to be at least in the top 10%, 90 plus percentile level, I think you should be targeting to attempt around 70 questions. That is 70% attempts with 90% accuracy. I think that is the mantra for many of you. I'll repeat, 70% attempts and 90% accuracy. Please get this correct. That is, you need to attempt something like 35, 30, 40, and get only 3 to 5 questions in each of the section, right? I mean, not get more than 7 to 10 questions wrong. That's a very, very important mantra for you. This is what I would say as the big takeaway from this video for you, from this session for you. Right, so now let me actually go on and see, I think this seems to be the last question for today, Avinash. Right, I mean, any other advice you would give to CAT aspirants, right? I mean, these kind of questions usually are very tricky because there's no specific agenda. But let me try to summarize and kind of give you my own inputs. When I was a student, I, by the way, take CAT regularly. From whatever I understand, I can tell you these. First, the fundamentals did not change. CAT exam was and is going to be always about, the first thing is right question selection. Selecting the right questions is far more important, right? Which questions to leave, which questions to solve is very important. That's something that did not change. Second, question comprehension. That is, lot of times students spend a lot of time in doing paperwork, pen paperwork, but CAT has always been an exam which is about understanding the question, laying out the data correctly, and the solution would automatically come. So these things did not change. So that should mean the fundamentals of CAT have not changed, or the core of CAT have not changed. But at the same time, there are a few things that students should focus on. And the first thing that they need to understand is they need to prepare for more testing areas from old CAT papers. They can't just focus on few areas that have been tested in the last many years, and hence the question paper set by a lot of coaching centers, right? This time, that's why I'm saying no one coaching brand, even Abhyaas, we can't claim to know the pattern. We don't know until the actual pattern comes out. Hence, the best bet for you is try practice more types of papers, go and solve many types of papers. Look at the older papers, CAT 2003 to 2008. Try to understand what kind of types of questions are asked, because some of them might resurface. A very important thing for you. That's the most important thing. And another key thing for you would be, as I just told in the last slide, plan the right number of attempts based on the percentile that you're targeting. Don't have a right exam strategy, have a right target. I've seen students go into the exam without a target, and they actually take it casually and they don't do well, right? Have a right strategy based on how you're doing in your mock preparation, your mock exams. Try and go have a right aim and practice that. Right? So this is where I end the session today. I think this is the last question. I think, Avinash, this is the last question. So I'll actually go ahead. So for any more queries on the pattern and any help you would need, etc., and to reach out to us in general for CAT preparation and CAT tests, etc., you can reach us, reach my team. You can get the Naresh CAT classes, Team Naresh CAT classes at Abhyaas by contacting us on this. This is a mail ID we have. You can call us on these numbers. This is the website. These are Facebook pages, and this is the address actually. We are based out of Hyderabad, and you can always reach us on this coordinates. So I'll close the session here. So I wish all the CAT 2014 aspirants all the very best with the new pattern. In fact, I believe it's so positive that I'm looking forward to see my students crack it big time, and I'm sure I'm hoping to see a good quality paper. So looking forward to know more of this after the actual exam. We'll connect back later, but have a great time ahead, the next 3 months preparing for CAT and doing well. All the very best to every one of you. Thanks for watching and keep sharing. All the best.